Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the SuperNova Astrology update for March 16th through 23rd, 2026. Well, we are in such a dynamic and magical time. Things are starting to move as we come out of eclipse season and Mercury retrograde thinks about beginning to resolve. So it's going from this going back and stuck and reworking energy in our personal planets, our daily life, to all of a sudden kind of catapulting forward in a whole new way. Now, this totally fits the energy of March equinox coming up this week. This is when the sun moves over into the sign of Aries, marking astrological spring. A new start to the year, a new start to the zodiac, and in this case we know it's a new start of time itself, with Saturn and Neptune both settled in the sign of Aries. Now our personal planets will be going into Aries. We already have Venus there. Venus moved over into Aries on March 3rd, the first of our personal planets to go over this Aries point of astrological spring. And as Venus went over, Venus was the first one and also the one that went with Saturn and Neptune still within a degree apart. Right now they're starting to separate out. Saturn and Neptune were in exact conjunction on February 21st. And so, but we'll feel that through the first week of April. Saturn and Neptune coming together at the beginning of Aries, 0 degrees. It's like, okay, what are we doing now? We recognize and remember that we have the power within us to co-create, to create our reality, that nothing is as it seems, and that we have an ability, a level of ability that has been hidden from us and that's coming back online. And so this is what this Saturn-Neptune conjunction is about, because Neptune is our dreams, but also delusions, confusions, misunderstandings, but also your spiritual path and your spiritual service, path of spiritual service in your birth chart. Saturn's your Dharma path. It represents for all of us is the way as it moves through the zodiac, time, reality, and restrictions around our relationship to the physical world. So Saturn and Neptune coming together is like dreams and reality, a reinfusion of our power, ability, but most important, our remembering of our abilities we have as advanced souls in a human body incarnate. And it's a fun chapter that lies ahead. But we're in this very intense moment where we have to face anything left in our subconscious in order to be able to move into this new chapter. And it is a facing off against all the lower forces that have been seeking to hold back human evolution on Earth, because we are right there at the precipice. And this is when the forces of opposition are going to be the strongest. And we have to remember this, that Mother Earth, the voice of the mother, wants to remind us that the flip that we know must happen, where the polarity shifts from one to the other, or whatever alignment is trying to happen right now with reality and time and our dreams and delusions and the original dream, and that it's really, you have to have the momentum of the exact opposite in order to flip it back. Right? Like that's how you get the momentum. It has to get all the way where it's opposite. And that's exactly, you could use that as a phrase to describe what happened in the Piscean age. Okay? So the healing, the love, the Christ consciousness that was blooming at the beginning of the last shift of ages was turned into by basically creating a fear and of this consciousness that movement and healing and energy and earth vibrational frequencies were somehow demonic, right? So this is just God force nature. But when they became demonic, then they became hidden and they became shameful. And so those of us that represented the pure creation energies were also demonized, you know? And so we have a lot to work through as we come out of the shadows and say yes to showing ourselves to the world as who we really are. Because we have faced such judgment and persecution, not for anything we've even done a lot of times in past lives, but just because we are the carriers of the light, the torch, the possibilities. And this is what's getting reactivated. We really need to understand this. We're coming up to the Pisces new moon, and this happens on March this week, Wednesday, Thursday, March 18th, 19th. And this Pisces new moon happens at the very end degrees of Pisces, 28 degrees. 27 minutes. So 28.5 degrees, it's like in the last few degrees of the sign. And that has an energy of a massive culmination of the energy of Pisces. To have that with like Mercury hanging out in Pisces, making it to 8 degrees. So Mercury will make it to 8 degrees. I think today actually is on the 16th, 17th, Mercury making it back to 8 degrees. And that's where the north node of the moon is, you know, and the nodes of the moon, the north node and the south node, are the interception of the orbit of the sun and the moon. So they have everything to do with eclipses, or it's the eclipses happen when the sun and the moon line up with the nodes of the moon, that everything's in alignment. Okay, so this is a reminder that this new moon in Pisces is a completion of eclipse cycle, of this eclipse season, you know. And this is the last set of eclipses that will happen in these mutable signs, because the nodes of the moon are going to be moving on July 1st into North Node Aquarius, South Node Leo. Very different energy. So this next couple of months is like we're healing and resolving and sorting out the very last bits of confusion and delusion and misunderstanding around the past Piscean age. Because get this, this new moon in Pisces happening at 28 degrees is right marking where the beginning of the Piscean age started, you know? So it's like the energy of when the Christ event occurred. And what is Rudolf Steiner talked about that meant, what that really meant is an increased availability of the Christ consciousness energy, or our direct relationship to source, an increased potential and possibility for that on earth. And that the Christ event filled the auric field, the etheric energy, you know, of earth with Christ consciousness, so that it's like more accessible, more available. And so, but then we had some really dark age stuff going on in the Piscean age, the last 2,000 years of this persecution of the light and calling the light dark so that the dark can pretend to be the light, you know. And this is the energy of what we're dealing with right now, is that we can't really move into any kind of future until we get the truth. So this last little jaunt into the Pisces energy, you know, especially with all of our personal planets taking turns in square to Black Moon Lilith, and Mercury 3 squares to Black Moon Lilith, and a very elongated whole month of period of time of influence of Mercury and square to Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith and square to the nodes of the moon. During all of this, that happened between the 7th to the 11th exact of March, but we'll feel that all the way through that first week of April. So we've got this ominous, mysterious energy of black hole, mystery, the invisible that we cannot ignore anymore. Okay, because Black Moon Lilith is the furthest away that the moon gets, the apogee from Earth. And so that is just a point in space. You know, it's just like a mysterious point in space, yet we sure do feel it. Same with the nodes of the moon. They're just energy points, you know, black holes. So this is so powerful, how this massive activation of the invisible, saying that we better bring what's hidden into the light, because we cannot keep creating from that place, of distortion and delusion. So everything has to get resolved from the Piscean age. But look, we're still living in a world of delusion. There's so much truth, but the everyday person doesn't care to know about the greater truths. It's much more comfortable to just stay in what you know. But what's happening is in this energy of exposure, okay? Because what's going on is that Black Moon Lilith, this point in space that's this furthest away the moon is, so it represents deep, dark secrets around the moon, or the feminine, advanced technologies, feminine, hidden things around the feminine. And in our birth chart, it represents wherever we might have shame about the past or hidden things in the past. Whether that shame is, founded or unfounded. This is a big thing with supernova souls, and would make sense is coming up right now. This misplaced shame, blaming ourselves for the karmas of others, transgressions of others. We were also manipulated and our energy stolen from us, so putting us in this position of regret and shame. But now we take it back. But how can we take our energy back without correcting the way it was misused? And I guess that's what we're facing right now. So what's going on right now is that Mars is in Pisces and is just crossed over. Today makes it to 10 degrees. Last couple days hanging out, crossing over Mercury. Mercury going from 9 degrees to 8 degrees. Mars going from 8 degrees to 9 degrees, now at 10 degrees. And at 9 degrees, they came into exact square with Black Moon Lilith. Okay? So it's like ships passing in the night, and yet, bam, right at that exact moment. So this is similar to the energy we were reading around Neptune and Saturn and Neptune coming together. That happened on the 21st of February, but we're saying we're not going to really feel that remedy, that spark that happened of that exact conjunction until we get this Mercury retrograde resolved. And the defining factor of the Mercury retrograde is these squares with Black Moon Lilith. So here we are. This is kind of like, bam, this moment in time where everything lines up to reveal the darkness. Okay. So the exposure, what's going on is an exposure of misrepresentations in the world, lies and deceit. But for supernova souls, it's also a disclosure of our own truth, our own being. Okay. So Venus, this has to do with the fact that it's like the combination of our personal planets squaring with Black Moon Lilith, but then meeting up with Saturn and Neptune at the beginning of Aries. And those beginning of Aries degrees represent the full potential of the human, what's possible in the ideal, the divine wholeness. It's like a reimagining, right? So if we take this reset of time and reality and our relationship to time and reality, dreams, delusions, what's possible, our greater spiritual understanding and service, and those together in this Adam Kadmon, this true divine human potential, a rebirth. So it's interesting because you could say like it's a rebirth of the mother's timeline, Mother Earth's original dream, what she wants to become and be. And that's also the divine human potential, that we're so much more than this. Okay. So the effect of this exposure moment, and if we could think about it, because like, oh yeah, exposure. I mean, because we know there's some dark stuff and it's also available. We have all this truth there, but it's really hard to look at. And so we're in a tough place where we kind of got to face these things, the elephant in the room, before we can really see clearly through to any other options as we move forward at all. The way to the past has been blocked. Doesn't that feel like that? Like, oh God, the bridge was destroyed behind you. and we don't know quite where we're going, but there's no retreating into the old patterns or to the old stories at this point. And that is kind of what I'm saying about this time being really dynamic. It's magic, but it's also intense. And so the combination of these squares and definitive messages, but also this forward, and it's new and it's whole and potential and the reset and the rebirth. So these things together, it's like a deep exploration into what has been hidden in order to kind of bring back in the light of our world. And so this is this journey that we're on with Mercury and Mars triggering this. It's like the next chapter of this remedy of reset, of flipping the tables and turning the tides, and Mercury and Mars coming together and exactly square up with Black Moon Lilith and Sagittarius. Now, Black Moon Lilith, our deepest, darkest secrets, but often around the feminine or anywhere we have shame, right? So we talked about the misplaced shame. And there's a lot of misplaced shame because we've been so rejected, had people turn against us and burned at the stake and persecuted, and you name it, right? And it was all designed to get us to play small and hide who we are. So the exposure that's coming, this new light that's coming in, and this flash of the remedies of the, this information, this understanding, this astrology that's like so epically lined up, that information is so important, like a trigger of our soul memory of who we are, and so it's kind of like you can't really go through this process and not find some level of program or misplaced or real origin shame. And it's like we have to go through this now so that we can support humanity in facing how far we have strayed from Mother's dream. How can we come back on to Mother's dream, Mother Earth's original, organic, ecstatic dream, if we don't deal with where we've transgressed in the past? We're not going to do it again. We're not going to give over her energy, let them rape and pillage her, let them poison and infiltrate and violate her at every turn. No, that's over and done with. And it's interesting because it took humanity to the point of extreme violation to be able to get to this place where we can stand and say, because our body's her body, right? And it's our cellular energy right now, the cellular memory, this reawakening, this overcoming, this organic biology coming online so strong with the creation forces, Mother Dragon waking up, the creation forces of the earth coming back online. And this represented in our opportunity in our body to heal the breach and the violation. That with every breath, with every step, with every moment in our prayers and meditations, choosing the organic original dream, choosing our electromagnetic plasma power, all of this is about uncovering our superpowers. Mother Earth's message has been like, this week is kind of like, I don't really like it, but she's like, it had to be really hard for you because you had to be really strong for this chapter. Are you feeling strong? Are you feeling like you've gone through enough now that you know how divinely protected you are? It's huge because we need to know this in order to stand up to, to claim this chapter, to overcome that programming around rejection, people turning against us, and shame. Because now we have to be the ones that step out in the light body, in the truth, in the demonstration of what's possible. In the we understand the shame and here's how to come back to the love. That Mother loves you, she's here, she's been with us. Mother Earth, we can rejoin with her, and become co-creators. Understand the abilities that we have. But we can't do it while we're carrying a bunch of shame, right? And that's what this energy is about. So the pictures coming as this exposure, and we know this, like there's so many truths, so many lies, so many scary things out there that we don't want to look at, but that have to come to the surface and are coming to the surface. So you could call that exposure. You know, it's kind of like putting a light into a dark corner, and the spiders or the rats run. The vermin, you know, they run because the light, they want to go hide. They're going to scurry away. So the distortions, the lies, the shame, the persecutions, and like the declaring evil, the you know, taking the light and what the workers and healers and calling them evil, you know, that's all this this flip on duality that was represented in the Piscean age, that this was by separating us from Mother Earth, a duality created, and it's us and them, and then it's always divide and conquer. And so we became in a war with our own body, with our own earth, you know. Maybe that had to manifest to this extreme degree with this technological toxicity so that we could have an opportunity to fight, you know. So we know that this exposure, because we know, we call it disclosure, right? We know, like, well, eventually there's going to be disclosure. We're going to have to talk about how weird things are. We're going to have to talk about all the lies. We're going to talk about who's wearing a mask and who's not. And we have to talk about how our calendar and music was all changed and rearranged, and all the manipulations over time. How our history is a lie. NASA's not a space agency. And it's like just lie after lie after lie. So we know that there needs to be an exposure of lies and truth, you know. And for us, it's going to be an exposure of this last hidden shame in our subconscious. As we begin to co-create and we work with a plasma field, the first thing that happens is a cleansing where we're shown through a mirror, right? Anything that we haven't been able to see, that other people couldn't show us so much. So like the universe begins to show us through other people still, but it's more random and synchronistic at the same time, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? You can feel the energies that are happening right now. It's like, oh, okay, there's no going back from this, right? Because once this exposure happens, what this light comes on, this flash of light, it could take a moment. If you think about it, that flash of light in the corner is going to make the rats and the spiders run. You know, it just takes one. Once you see the light flash, then you see the vermin and you know they're there. And you know what you have to deal with, right? And that's what we're talking about with this exposure. But we also can look at it in another way around when we're talking about exposure that happens when you're taking a picture with a camera lens. Exposure is where you measure the amount of light that comes in, right? How big the aperture, how much and how long you're going to keep this open to have the more light come in. So when you have the light come in, then you get a better detailed picture, you know, if you have the right amount of light. And that's kind of what's happening. We've been restricted in our light, in our perception. There's these hues that exist in the prism of the spectrum of color that have been blocked from our eyes, like other dimensional energies available right here, you know. And so we're opening up to this kind of new level. Now, once you see that, like just say you had one glimpse, this is like the revelation energy. You know, you see one glimpse, you see one vision, you want to see one truth. It's really hard to go back to not before who you were before that, that inspiration or that revelation, you know, that moment of truth, that revealing, that vision you saw, the message from somebody, the book, like whoever told you about that thing, and like that revelation. So this is what's happening. We have like many revelations, and it's all this exposure. And the exposure for the vermin is like, oh, gotta run and hide. For us, we're like, oh, are we okay in this light? Are we okay? Are we safe here on Earth, living in our potential? You know, if we should be, because this is our Earth. We're her stewards. We know this. You know, but we were like kicked out, violated. and kind of kicked out from permission to be in our full selves in our own garden. And now we claim it back. So the exposure has an energy of seeing something you haven't seen before that you can't unsee. And that's this flash of light energy where it's like everything is different from that moment. You know, if you receive a spiritual message, these are the energies that, you know, if you people later in their lives over time can remember every single detail of this type of experience, because it's the only thing that's real. And now we're like, the veil is thinning. With Saturn and Jupiter and Aries, it's like the whole mysterious, hidden, inside out, let's make good evil and evil good, Piscean age delusions are falling away, right? So the whole energy of Saturn and Neptune out of Pisces is like, okay, we had a reality, a false reality that was able to exist built on delusions. You know, and now it's like the delusions can no longer support, because we are requiring substance. Now that we can see more, you know, see more clearly, see through the veil, we're like, okay, well, there's nothing to back it up. We require substance. And so that is the energy of what we're doing. And that brings to mind Uranus at the end of Taurus. Uranus has made it to 28 degrees of Taurus. Very end and that is exact sextile to this new moon that's in Pisces that's happening on the 18th, 19th. I hope you can join us for the new moon activation on Wednesday, March 18th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Very powerful. And then we're going to have a Equinox soul group session on the 19th, the next day, Thursday. So when we have these events together, the way things line up, it's so cool because the activation sets a stage, gives us a very great foundation so we can do a lot of deeper work in the soul group session, which is a group intuitive session designed to make the most of the current energies at these intense times, the eclipses and the equinoxes and solstices is when I do those soul group sessions. So you're taking advantage of this culmination energy of astrology and using it to open to the most clarity that can come. Now, this is a very powerful time because it's almost like we can get the clarity from all the soul group sessions we've done in the eclipses, because the eclipse season is just now resolving. And we know that we don't really feel what's happened, and if Mercury's retrograde, and you know, whatever's happened during that, we don't really feel the effect of it until Mercury turns direct. And here we have Mercury turning direct on the 21st. So this is a busy week. We've got the new moon on the 18th, 19th. We've got the equinox, the 19th, 20th. And then Mercury turning direct. And so it's this whole period of time, pretty much from the middle of March into the middle of April, is this crazy time of like, oh, forward increments, forward motion, right? Like I see something that I can't unsee. It changes my trajectory. It gives me clarity on the way forward. And so I'm going to adjust to this, right? And that, but also there's this square dynamic squares at interesting timing. You know, when the planets are doing these dances together, it's like they're not operating as a separate entity anymore. They're like they're connected through plasma. Remember that whole lineup of how they came together in that perfect lineup over these last months? And then they took turns in this beautiful dance, like poetry, like a play, you know? And so the dance continues as they move over into Aries and conjunct up with Neptune and then Saturn. Like we said, Venus was the first to do this, and now we are going to be having the sun will be the next one. The sun moving over on the 20th, the equinox moving over the Aries point. And that's a lot of what we've been talking about, because the sun represents our identity. And with all this powerful energy, Aries is the true identity. Like Aries is the soul essence potential, right? That was there at the moment of conception before you were born. It's got the whole of you, you know, that hasn't been able to be expressed through these lifetimes. And so it's so incredibly powerful to have all of this coming together at this time. And so the sun on the equinox moves over the Aries point, and then the sun as who are we in our identity, and there's this great revealing about the potential of humanity. That means that the sun going over this Aries point is like, oh, because the personal planets meeting up with Neptune and Saturn, and now settled in Aries, says that it's kind of like, here's your marching orders for the new timeline. And with the sun, that means this is who you really are. Like, you got to show who you are. You got to reveal who you are. And maybe that's the exposure part of the flash of light for us. That's like, oh, exposure. Like, our light flashed on, and then the people around us couldn't not see it anymore. And we've got to manage this whole thing that's happened in past lives where people turned against us, and it was demonized, our activation. And so that we can overcome that subconscious. So that's part of the exposure. It's like exposing enough light to expose what's in the way or what's going to be a problem when we get the big exposure. I don't know what that means, but we'll just see what this is like. But after on the equinox, we set us on the 20th, and then Mercury turns direct on the 21st, and then we will be feeling the sun having his turn in this epic journey in a conjunction with Neptune on the 22nd, and then a conjunction with Saturn on the 25th. So when Venus came together with these planets, they were only 1 degree apart. Now they are they'll be 3 degrees apart. They're coming out of their exact conjunction. The energy will resolve at the beginning of April of their conjunction. So it's very powerful that Venus came with them when they were close, like the divine feminine leading the way, informing the new timeline when they were together. Reality dream, mother's dream. Really cool. Now the sun, who are we? They're separate, and we're evaluating different aspects of the new timeline, like time, reality, and then possibilities and room for a deeper and more true understanding of these technologies, of our interconnectedness, our plasma, the possibilities of what we've worked with, and remembering a soul memory of advanced technologies we've worked with in past lives on Earth in a body, in our very own bodies. This is the energy that I was talking about with Uranus at 28 degrees Taurus, because it's coming to the very end of the sign. So in a sextile to this new moon. And it starts off this whole week of like, whoa, because the Pisces new moon is going back into the dungeon so far. Mercury made it back to 8 degrees that you can see clearly finally. You went through the tunnel system enough to know what's really going on down there. And we're not going to just gloss it over and pretend it doesn't exist. We're going to clean it up. That is the energy of this new moon. And so it's with the sun. The new moon is when the sun and the moon are together. And so at 28 degrees, they will be an exact sextile to Uranus and Taurus at 28 degrees. And this is a magical configuration because Pisces is the end and Taurus is coming into form. So sextiles are 2 signs apart. So it's like the signs go feminine, masculine, and so it's like the next feminine sign. And so it's like this beautiful energy of working together and creative solutions, saying that coming out of the Piscean age and reworking reality has to do with reclaiming our wealth, our permission for our treasures, our true wealth, which is energetic wealth, which is interesting because that makes Black Moon Lilith as this point out there in space, maybe talking about the shame or just the hiddenness of our abilities, right? Our magic that was demonized. And now the world needs it and it's got to come to the foreground. So we've got to heal the demon so that we're not demonized anymore. It's like we've all been carrying a little part of this demon since we were demonized. What a great way to get us to carry the energy of the demon, right? And so it's subconscious shame, and that's why the world is mirroring to us right now. And it's a really intense hall of mirrors because like we said, this is all resolving. We're getting clarity, we're getting exposure, but Mercury is still retrograde and is going to be hanging out at 8 degrees for this next week. Turns retrograde, but doesn't move off 8 degrees. Not going to make it until 9 degrees until the 25th. And so that's kind of this whole thing. Turns direct, comes back into its third and final square with Black Moon Lilith on March 29th. And then will make it back to 9 degrees, get really moving again on the 25th. Come out of retrograde shadow on April 10th and move into Aries April 16th. So mid-April is so powerful. And I just think it's crazy. It's so close, all this culmination around tax day in the US, because we know that part of the exposure of what we're finding out and have to face is the way that we've been manipulated through financial tyranny, a Babylonian money magic system. They steal from us and make a whole bunch of money off of it, keep us in poverty to keep them rich. This whole inside out money system that rewards corruption. And that's coming to an end. And so it's like, tax day, right? Because Mercury into Aries, our last personal planet. Mars moves into Aries on April 10th. And that's the same day that Mercury comes out of retrograde shadow. So it is like boom, 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 right? Once these things start moving. So this Pisces new moon is the completion of eclipse season. Mercury turns direct the next few days. And then final square with Black Moon Lilith is really the completion of that energy. And we'll feel that final square with Black Moon Lilith through April 2nd. So this is our timeline for these things to resolve. But at that point, it's like, okay, the motor is running because the motor just got started. It's idling still until Mercury gets going direct again. But Mars and Mercury coming together, like ships in the night in that square to Black Moon Lilith, it's almost like something happened, but it's so distant and remote that we haven't felt the effect of it yet, or like waiting for it to arrive into our field. So interesting and powerful times that we're in, because with all this going on, we've got Mercury will make that final square with Black Moon Lilith, and Mars moves over into Aries on the 10th. Mercury exiting retrograde shadow on the 16th. Mercury makes it into Aries, the last personal planet. And then Mercury comes up to Neptune and Saturn. That will be on the 17th and the 20th of April. So this is then we're going to be like, okay, so the next drama chapter of the astrology as the planets are in Aries means that they're going to be squaring up with Jupiter in Cancer, now direct. And we're starting to feel something moving under the surface with this Jupiter now direct. Happened on the 11th, but Jupiter is still slow to move, won't make it to 16 degrees, has been at 15 degrees since mid-February, and will make it to 16th and the 16 degrees the first week of April. So, but Jupiter is direct as of the 11th. And it's this kind of subtle underground, which is weird, all the hidden, invisible black hole energy. And it's like, well, Jupiter's direct. We don't really feel it yet, but there's this underlying movement of Mother Dragon waking up, that tsunami of mother's love. And there's this kind of waking up process, right? Where you have to come into, like, feel the pain and move the body and like rework what's been stuck and hidden and sick within us. And that's this energy, but it's just this kind of undercurrent, an underground river saying something is coming. Something is coming, prepare. And so we don't know. This astrology is so profound with all of this energy towards forward motion, but also squares and dealing with the past. Because what happens next is Venus will come into, on the same day, on the 21st, we said that Mercury turns direct. On the 22nd, the sun will come into conjunction with Neptune. And that's the same day that Venus will square up with Jupiter. So in our planets in Aries, it's like, oh, first they hit Neptune and then Saturn, and they get their marching orders for the new timeline. And it's like almost that deer in the headlights feeling, like, okay, here we go. I don't know, somehow trust, thy will, not mine, like what's happening. And then they come into that square with Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter direct, but not really moving yet for Venus, and it's like, okay, well, what's blocking the mother's love from coming back? And it's this energy that's so subtle, but really, really important. I talked about it last week a little bit, but this seductive energy that the forces of control have sought us to keep us in misery, but they have not been able to keep us from reconnecting to this earth energy, to this creation energy, our natural state. So the next game is to try to get us to go sideways just as we're feeling better, like to basically loop and keep the energies of creation forces trapped in the lower chakras. It's all part of the greater plan, because if there's this blockage of our higher chakras, our pineal gland, we know that it's been under attack in many different ways, these advanced capabilities. If you have your connection to your imaginal realm and your higher chakras and your guidance, it is no problem to have creation energy come back online. If creation energy comes back online in your body, but you're blocked, and wounded in your heart, and all this place where, we have so much healing, humanity and all of us that we've been working on and doing, but that is designed, that deliberate agenda to get that energy to loop back and just be in the feel-good realm of the lower chakra self-gratification. And so we got to be really, really careful that as we come back online with these creation forces, we're deliberately taking it to the highest place, And even if we don't feel totally open and connected in our higher chakras, our intention of that, it's like they say, they're like, oh, the creation energies are coming back online, and they're going to use that, since they haven't been able to stop the creation energies. They'll use those, like they'll steal those off the top, right? Take that cream off the top, take that tax off the top. And we have to be just really careful as those creation energies come online that we feel confident, able, shame-free, to be able to hold, contain, and move those energies into the alignment of the dream we came here to create. We have made it this far without our soul being corrupted. We've gone through so much, and yet this is the final, seductive, call and pull into these energies. And it is only possible, it's like there's this, I can just see this playbook of create massive misery, scarcity, disconnection, poverty, so that when the energies do return, if they, that we're messed up in just the opposite way too. And so vigilance, alignment, and saying, yes, I am a container for these energies. I am capable, worthy, and qualified to hold, contain, and work with the coming online plasma dragon, mother dragon force of nature that's becoming available. I am here to receive and do my part to activate and co-create with these energies, because once you have that exposure, that glimpse, and after you overcome the overwhelm of shock and the overwhelm of darkness, you see the possibilities of all that's been hidden from us, awakening and opening up. Stepping into this new era, this new age, this new renaissance, where we claim back the magic of our past ages and the abundance that's been stolen from us. And the only thing we can do is build beautiful things, whether it's physical things or with vibration and frequency, or physical things built with vibration and frequency, all these mysteries opening up to us. But the era we're moving into is this new renaissance, which is about expressing it through art and music and everything beautiful. So it's this desire to create and build beautiful things for Mother, as a way to make up for how separate we got from her. working with this deep exploration of the mysteries of nature and the forms. It's like reforming ourselves and our soul with the forms of nature by coming back into connection with her. And this is interesting because on the flip side of that, there's this energy of like, well, what's coming up, honey, is your formative years, really, like a reliving of the influences in early in life that you were probably not even conscious of, but being aware of yourself at that time and having glimpses of clarity, but also painful realizations and facing deep, dark feelings that are still holding us back, and saying, hey, I am a conscious soul in advancement, and I want to rewrite the formation of my soul in this incarnation, reform, resculpt, reimagine. And so we're being asked to allow ourselves to be like clay, to be reformed in the image of her, right? Like, that's Mother's garden. We want to be in pristine alignment of the original dream of what our body, our soul, our essence wants to become, just like we have that vision for Mother Earth. And she, in the reset, this exposure, this flash of light, the reset of her original dream, that resets the codes, or the code, she says, and we each have this beautiful piece of this tapestry, a weaver of her realm that nobody else can do. The certain hue, the certain thread, the certain formation, the certain energy and strength and wisdom you bring from lifetimes of experience. Take up your thread, take up your womb, take up your loom, and let's weave this new future, build something beautiful. Whatever you do, make it beautiful, and it will work, she says, in these energies. And that has to do with it now, from now on, for the next 200 years. Saturn and Jupiter, which come together every 20 years, generational change plant makers, that they are meeting in air signs. So that's Renaissance. And the last Renaissance was stolen through corruption, distortion, violence, revolution, and our golden age of abundance could not come to fruition so many times. And now it has to come. And we have to claim it all back if we're going to claim Mother Earth back. We have to be worthy for all of our wealth and abundance. And that's the energy of Uranus, now direct, coming to 28 degrees of Taurus, very end. Uranus moves into Gemini the end of April 27th. Huge marker in time where we go from claiming our wealth to expressing our wealth. Okay, so we have to really use this time wisely to claim that invisible wealth and to own it, to feel safe, to feel comfortable, to feel that we can be at home in our own body. A lot of what's happening right now, the issues for supernova souls, is around embodiment, that the part of your soul is activating, but we've been programmed that it's not safe to be fully incarnate in the light that we are. So we're kind of like, there's a little bit of a subconscious battle, and that's maybe why this Black Moon Lilith transits are so useful, even though it's intense and facing the darkness and facing the exposure. But we've got to find what's hidden in there so that we can come into this alignment and begin to build this beautiful future and awaken into our potential. With the sun coming into these conjunctions after Equinox, it's like an illumination of our potential. And so pay very close attention to the information that wants to come through. A great way to do that, come to these events. Be great to have you with us for that Pisces New Moon Activation, Wednesday, March 18th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And then the Equinox Soul Group Session, a group intuitive session looking at shared past life pictures on Thursday, March 19th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And then on the 20th, a very exciting venture is the Goddess Activation. I taught this class a few years ago during Venus retrograde in Leo, and I think that was 2021. And I haven't taught it live since, and so I have a recorded version on my website. But the time is right now, like we talked about, how important it is to focus and channel the creation energies in alignment so that we have more and more permission. And that's kind of the thing we just worked through, the owning your energetic field. So once we own our field, then we have more permission to really turn on the active and activate the creation energies. And that's what the archetypes of the goddess help us do. So the goddess activation is an 8-pillar series. These 8 pillars are work specifically with each of our chakras, levels of consciousness, and plexus centers, to come into communication and alignment with our sacral chakra, creation organs, where we have permission and access, and also the root chakra, very important in that, accessing creation energy and potential. So when we look at all the levels of consciousness in relationship to these organs and to this energy that's available, we can clear out anything on any level that might be in the way of gaining more access to this energy to build this beautiful new world. And so we work with the archetypes of the goddess relating to each chakra, really beautiful, talking about the different characters that the divine feminine has played, studying, coming in contact, opening up to communication and messages from that archetype, from that being, from this divine feminine who has manifested in so many different forms. And so a beautiful exploration of the goddess archetypes and building a goddess temple. So in our very own field to host that creation energy. So please consider joining that goddess activation. That's going to be on Fridays over the next 8 weeks, starting this Friday, March 20th on Equinox. Very powerful moment to begin something new. And I just feel like it's just such crucial work. And when we get together as a group and do this work, we hold a strong energy in the field for the collective, and this right use of creation energy as our energy is coming back online and the forces seek to usurp that energy as it comes back online. If we don't feel worthy, if we don't feel capable, or we feel too shameful, or there's distortions and hidden subconscious programming, we might be more apt, in humanity itself, to give away that creation energy right when we're about to get it back. And so that's what the goddess activation is about. And I hope that you'll consider joining and doing that work with me and holding this for Supernova Soul Tribe and for humanity. I so appreciate you and your support and your help and donations. And thank you so much for your help on that level and joining these classes. Being a part of the Supernova Soul Tribe, it gets you into every activation. And very important organization moving forward. So thank you so much for bringing your energy and holding space for the Supernova mission, whatever it is. Maybe we'll have some great insight. I bet we will in these events. So I hope to see you Wednesday for that new moon activation, Thursday for the soul group session, and the goddess activation Friday. Information to sign up for those in the information box below. So this next chapter, we're starting to feel as Venus on the 22nd, the same day that, so the sun is with Neptune. Who are we in the new dream, the original dream? And then Venus squared Jupiter, saying, why are we not connected to Mother? Why are we not at a place to better receive the tsunami of love, of creation energies that are coming back? Why do we feel so shameful? How this programming of religious programming of the Piscean age that we have to make up for being wrong or bad, that sinners, born sinners, we have to be cleansed, that we have to be corrected, and that we have to have another power outside of ourselves in order to do that. We have to sacrifice. And there's just so much distortion in the mythology of Christ, of Christianity, and so this is part of the massive correction. And I would venture to say that's gotta have to do with, can we get Mary Magdalene back in the story, the truth here? Can we put the pieces back together? Is this the exposure? Why is she so censored, and it's very powerful because that Venus leading the way in Aries is this divine feminine empowerment. It's yes, this is our blueprint. Everything we need to know is with Mother Earth's code, the original geometry and the mysteries and the forms, and can we reform us to her divine ourselves, to her divine form, and move forward in this incredible, amazing dream of co-creation, feeling worthy and purified, redeemed, repentant. Sorry, Mother, I got so far away, but I'm here, and your love's here, and let's do this. And it's like the creation energies are coming back online so fast that we've got to be like hyper vigilant about where that energy is going, directed, where we're aligned in every moment. So thank you so much, Supernova Souls, for being you and being so aware and doing this amazing work. But Venus square Jupiter on the 22nd, and then Venus, after they square with Jupiter, the planets will catch up with Chiron at the end of the sign. And that'll be gradually as our personal planets make this square with Jupiter connection with Chiron. It's bringing Jupiter and Chiron closer into their final exact square that happens the first week of July. And that happens when Jupiter and Chiron move into their next signs. 0 degrees, Jupiter in Leo, Chiron in Taurus. So it's a very different energy, and those are fixed signs. And so this is the next part of the journey. It's just kind of like this coming into formation, right? Recognizing that we're part of a greater organism. And if we can get organized like Mother Nature knows how to organize, we can stand in the power of the field, right? Through our understanding of who we are, the geometry, the physics of what we're really made out of and what's really happening here, the power to create our own reality. We are seeing through all the delusions. It's a quick flip. We are flipping the tables and turning the tide. That's what this astrology says. So watch out for these key dates with the new moon, Mercury direct, or Equinox, Mercury direct, and early April and mid-April, Mercury coming out of retrograde shadow, moving into Aries. And it's like a stampede at that time. It's like, okay, the army's in formation. We all know what we're doing and where we're going. And we're going to push through the gates. And we're going to establish and claim our most beautiful, true, abundant reality. And get on with it. Because if we don't rebuild and claim back what was stolen, we cannot evolve at all. I think that's the message of Uranus and Taurus. She's like, you guys, the big elephant in the room is the treasures that you won't reclaim. Go ahead and expose all the lies and the criminals. But until you say, hey, that's our technology, you stole it, manipulated it away from us, and then used it against us. So this is the exposure we're talking about with Black Moon Lilith getting so triggered. And so this feeling of Mercury and Mars and this illumination of the shadow and the darkness, the deceit of the Piscean age, of the duality consciousness, us against them, and yet we have to come into this final battle, okay? Because we know that first, Mercury is very first square with Black Moon Lilith, then Venus, then the Sun, then Mars and Mercury, and then Mercury's final, Black Moon Lilith. They were at incremental degrees exactly, right? So Mercury 5, Venus 6, the Sun 7, the nodes at 8, the nodes of the moon at 8, and then Mercury and Mars at 9, and then Mercury again at 10 and 11. And 11 degrees is this facing off. It's saying, okay, we have to accept we're stuck in duality consciousness and face off with the opposite so that we can flip our reality back into a more whole experience, interconnected and not at war so much with, it's like, if there's just the two, then it's always that war. But it's like we've got all these aspects of ourselves we're integrating with these planetary, the way the planets are talking to each other and working together. We're realizing that the parts of ourselves our parts of ourselves, putting back together pieces of our personality, our past life dynamics, our soul retrieval, just incarnating our bigger self. And that's where this body being communication comes in, of like, how do we support our physical body to really feel safe and to incarnate our light as who we are, because the exposure's coming. The exposure for us is like, our crown chakra coming online and being seen in the light that we really are, and being okay with that. And that's that beautiful contained egg shape, this beautiful aura of your own biome, your own Merkaba field. That's where we learned in this Owning Your Energetic Field course. And your own Merkaba field, your own spaceship, where you can exist in your own electromagnetic field and connection to Mother Earth, where you have access to whatever you need right inside of yourself and right there in your field. So powerful. We're so powerful, and there's no way around coming to know this. And it looks like we supernova souls are being asked to have gone through a bunch of crap so that we're strong enough to just get over it and move forward in being willing to be seen and demonstrate this technology. So here we go. It's such an honor to be on this journey with you. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for your donations, being a part of the Soul Tribe, coming to the events, coming to the classes. It just, us together, working together, is so incredibly powerful. And every time you come and do a class or an activation, whatever you realize is available, to the tribe. And so I appreciate you. And I'm so glad that you found us, and I can't wait to see what happens. And just be ready for this very dynamic time. Remember, we're in the year of the fire horse, but we haven't felt that either, because we had eclipse season, Mercury retrograde. So until Mercury retrograde resolves, and really that mid-April, and Mercury moves over to Aries, it's like, okay, now we run with it. So between now and then, this next month, 3-4 weeks of all this resolving, that's a lot of shit to figure out. A lot of sorted stuff to get organized and sorted and clean up. There's a lot of stuff you're dealing with in your life that you don't have to, that's not even going to be anything you have to worry about in the future. Streamline, organize, get clear, take your time, take your space, take your meditation, take your private alone time. We're in the wilderness, and we are facing our own Satan reflection in the plasma mirror. Right? It's like that. Our greatest fear has to arise before we can move into a different relationship with time and reality and co-creation. But what a beautiful precipice we're at, and nothing can stop it from coming. And that's all thanks to you and all this hard work and devotion, dedication, never giving up. So hold on. We're almost there. There's something, I don't know, we'll see in this next couple of weeks what's revealed in this exposure of the dark and the light. Thank you so much, Supernova Souls. I look forward to seeing you soon, hopefully at the new moon activation, Equinox Soul Group session, the Goddess activation. I appreciate you so much. I look forward to seeing you there or on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.